Welcome back to another video of English with Collins. In today's video, I'm actually going to focus on American grammar, the 10 mistakes that make you sound foreign in the American English accent. I know for the past couple of weeks we have focused on pronunciation, vocabulary, and etc., especially when it comes to the American English. But in today's video, I want to focus on grammar, simply just grammar. And the reason why I want to focus on grammar is I want you guys to understand the proper ways to pronounce certain words in certain sentences, and also to extract certain words in certain sentences as well too, so that your American English does not only sound really good, but at the same time you're speaking the American English with proper grammar that goes with it. So if you're definitely interested and if you're excited, let's go ahead and let's jump right in. Now, a quick disclaimer, for those of you that have purchased some of my courses in the past, I want you guys to know that the domain name has officially been changed. Instead of it being englishwithcollins.com, we have changed it to englishwithcollins.shop. So for this specific website, you will be able to have access to purchase some of our materials. We're transitioning the englishwithcollins.com to a different site where it's going to be an online community base where you'll have access to more things. Now, what I want you guys to understand is we're only focusing on the standard American English accent. Okay, we're not talking about hood, AAVE, slang, valley girl, whatever type of dialect we usually focus on this YouTube channel. We're only going to be focusing on standard American English accent. Okay, so let's jump right in. The very first mistake that most people actually make when it comes to speaking the American English accent is not adding the word do. It's not adding the word do. So sometimes you definitely do need to add the word do, especially when you're starting off whether you're asking a question or whether you're saying something. Adding do is very important, especially when it comes to speaking. Let me give you a couple of examples. I'm going to give you 3. Take a look at this mistake. Take a look at this sentence. And by the way, this sentence is a mistake. You like pizza? You like pizza? You notice if I'm asking you a question and I ask you, you like pizza? Does that even make any sense? It doesn't. Why? Because we're missing do. Now here's the right way to say it. Do you like pizza? Do you like pizza? You notice how adding do actually makes it more direct. It makes it more centered and it makes it more focused towards the person you're speaking to. Do you like pizza? Do you like pizza? Excellent. Let's take a look at the second mistake. He have a car. He have a car? He have a car? You notice how that doesn't make any sense? Now, let's add the other variation of do. He have a car becomes, does he have a car? Does he have a car? You notice how that sounds much better? Does he have a car? That's exactly how you need to be speaking. So you need to use do, especially when you're asking questions. Let's take a look at one more. They understand? They understand? The correct one would be, do they understand? Do they understand? You notice how that sounds much better? You notice how it makes sense, especially when I'm speaking to someone and I'm asking someone a question, and instead of saying they understand, instead of me saying they understand, I say do they understand? It makes more sense. So that's the very first mistake. Let's take a look at the second mistake. The second mistake is overusing the word will in future tense. Overusing the word will in future tense. Let's take a look at the mistakes. The first mistake would be, I will call you later. I will call you later. Now, I will call you later is not bad, but to sound a little bit more fluent and to speak a bit faster, instead of saying I will, change it to I'll call you later. I'll call you later sounds much better than I will call you later. So I will call you later is a bit too long, especially when you're having a conversation with someone and you're trying to speak fast, or the person is speaking fast and he is speaking at a faster pace and you're trying to match up with him. Instead of saying I will call you later, just say I'll call you later, man. I'll call you later. It sounds much better. Let's take a look at the next one. She will go to school tomorrow. She will go to school tomorrow. Sounds a bit too long. Instead, you should say, she's gonna go to school tomorrow. she's gonna go to school tomorrow. You see, like I've previously stated before in my previous videos, that when it comes to the American English accent, majority of the times, instead of saying going to becomes gonna. Going to becomes gonna. So you need to always keep that at the back of your mind. So instead of saying, she will go to school tomorrow, say, she's gonna go to school tomorrow. She's gonna go to school tomorrow. We are extracting the word will out of the sentence. Let's take a look at one more. They will help us with this project. They will help us with this project. That becomes, they're gonna help us with this project. They're gonna help us with this project. They're gonna help us with this project. Excellent. You see? Sometimes you need to extract the word will out of the sentence and simplify it by combining two different words together. So instead of they will, instead of saying they will, there. They will, there, or there are. So they are. So they are becomes they're gonna help us with this project. Excellent. Keep that at the back of your mind. Now, the third mistake would be using don't instead of doesn't. Using don't instead of doesn't. So there are times where you need to use the word don't, and there are other times where it's very important to use the word doesn't. Let's give you a couple of examples. The first example would be, she don't like spicy food. She don't like spicy food is more informal talk. But to sound formal, standard American English, it becomes, she doesn't like spicy food. She doesn't like spicy food. So instead of she don't like spicy food, it becomes she doesn't like spicy food. You see the difference? Excellent. Let's look at this one. It don't make sense. It don't make sense. That is improper grammar. Proper grammar would be, it doesn't make any sense, or it doesn't make sense, or it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Let's look at one more. My brother don't live here no more. My brother don't live here no more. That's improper grammar. Proper grammar would be, my brother doesn't live here anymore. My brother doesn't live here anymore. You see the difference? Exactly. There are times where you definitely need to use the word don't. But there are other times you definitely need to emphasize on doesn't. Doesn't is very important when it comes to different statements that you make. So you need to figure out exactly when to use it and when not to use it. Awesome. Let's move on. Now, the fourth aspect would be misusing was and where. Misusing was and where. Let's take a look at this example. If he was rich, he would buy a mansion. If he was rich, he would buy a mansion. If he was rich, he would buy a mansion. If he were rich, he would buy a mansion. If he were rich, he would buy a mansion. So you notice what we just did right there. We replaced was because was in that statement is improper. Were is proper grammar. If he were rich, he would buy a mansion because we're talking about something that happened in the past. The word was would not be the proper word to insert in that statement. It would be were. If he were rich, because we're talking about someone, singular. If he were rich, he would buy a mansion. Let's take a look at the second one. If I was taller, I could be a model. If I was taller, I could be a model. If I was taller, I could be a model. Becomes, if I were taller, I could be a model. If I were taller, I could be a model. Again, we're talking about me, right? Singular. It's proper. This is proper grammar. If I were taller, I could be a model. You see the difference? Excellent. Let's move on. Now, the fifth aspect is not contracting words. Not contracting words. There are times where you need to contract words instead of saying everything. Times where you need to contract it, and there are times where you don't need to contract it. For instance, let's take a look at this one. We are going to the mall. We are going to the mall. We are going to the mall. Now, let's contract that. We're going to the mall. We're going to the mall. See the difference? We are becomes were. We are becomes were. Keep that at the back of your mind. Let's look at the second example. She is not feeling well. She is not feeling well. Contracted, it becomes she's not feeling well. She's not feeling well. Excellent. There are times you need to contract. There are times you need to expand. But there are also times you need to contract. Know the difference. Now, the sixth aspect is using more with double comparatives. Using the word more with double comparatives. Let's take a look at this example. This test was more easier than the last one. This test was more easier than the last one. There are times I make this mistake too, but the proper way to say it would be, this test was easier than the last one. This test was easier than the last one. Instead of saying more, just say this test was easier than the last one, because I'm already emphasizing the fact that the test was already easy. By just adding more, it's like I'm saying the same thing twice, right? I'm enhancing it a bit more, which is not needed. So instead of saying this test was more easier than the last one, I should simply say this test was easier than the last one. You see the difference? Excellent. Let's take a look at the second example. His car is more faster than mine. His car is more faster than mine. There's no need for me to add more because I'm already saying that his car is faster than mine. There's no need to say more faster than mine. It just doesn't make any sense, right? But instead I should say, his car is faster than mine. His car is faster than mine, because I'm already making a statement by saying that his car is faster than mine. Adding more just, I guess, enhances it, but it doesn't really do anything. It's not necessary to say that. So instead of saying his car is more faster than mine, his car is faster than mine. His car is faster than mine. There you go. Now, the seventh aspect is misplacing the word yet in sentences. Misplacing the word yet in sentences. For example, she didn't call me yet. She didn't call me yet. That becomes she hasn't called me yet. So didn't would be the word we need to focus on and remove and change didn't to hasn't. So she hasn't called me yet is the proper way to say it. She hasn't called me yet. Not she didn't call me yet. She hasn't called me yet is proper grammar. Let's take a look at the second example. I didn't eat yet. I didn't eat yet becomes I haven't eaten yet. I haven't eaten yet. See the difference? Awesome. Excellent, excellent, excellent. You're learning. All right. Let's take a look at the rest of the three. The eighth section, we're going to focus on using for instead of since. Using for instead of since. Let's take a look at this one. I have lived in New York for 2015. That is improper grammar. Proper grammar. I have lived in New York since 2015. So instead of saying for, use the word since. I have lived in New York since 2015. Great. Let's take a look at the second one. They have been married for last summer. They have been married for last summer. Proper grammar. They have been married since last summer. They have been married since last summer. All right. Like I said, the reason why I brought this up because many people actually make this kind of mistake, especially when it comes to grammar. So instead of using for, you use since. Since is a better word to use in these kinds of statements than for. Okay. Awesome. Now the ninth part would be misusing ain't in formal speech. Misusing ain't in formal speech. Let me give you a couple of examples. I ain't seen that movie yet. I ain't seen that movie yet in proper grammar. Proper grammar? I haven't seen that movie yet. I haven't seen that movie yet. I ain't is improper, and it's in a sense, it's informal grammar. Haven't is proper. Awesome. She ain't got no time for that. She ain't got no time for that becomes she doesn't have time for that. She doesn't have time for that. That's proper grammar. Improper grammar, she ain't got time for that. Proper grammar, she doesn't have time for that. You see the difference? So these are just 9, right, mistakes that most people make. Let's look at the last one. The last one is using can't instead of couldn't in hypotheticals. using can't instead of couldn't in hypotheticals. For example, he can't have stolen the money. He can't have stolen the money. Improper. Proper. He couldn't have stolen that money. He couldn't have stolen that money. See the difference? Excellent. Let's take a look at the next one. She can't have known about the party. She can't have known about the party. Nah. It becomes, she couldn't have known about the party. She couldn't have known about the party. Here are the top 10 common mistakes you find and you hear, especially when it comes to grammar, in the American English accent. I hope this video itself, it gave you an idea of how this works. All right, I want you guys to go ahead and take your time. You can go back and watch this video over and over again, or check out the next video that I'm getting ready to share right here on this side, and just watch it. Take a look through it, learn something. You feel me? It's all about learning. Everything is all about learning. So learn something and then study from here on going, okay? I want to say I appreciate you so much for watching this video, liking this channel, subscribing, and staying tuned. I appreciate you, and thank you so much for everything. You guys stay blessed. Bye-bye.